The kitchen table shook hard. My son Mark slammed his fist down. Dishes jumped and rattled. I stood still, holding a new jacket I bought him, the gift now feeling heavy and useless. His eyes, usually kind, were cold and angry. He yelled, his voice raw and harsh. "You're just dead weight, Mama. A burden. Pay the rent or get out. Get out now." Every word hit me like a punch. My breath caught in my chest. I stumbled back, holding the jacket tight. My hands turned white. His wife, Candace, stood behind him. She had a mean smile, and her eyes looked happy to see me hurting. It was a hateful look. Their children, Liam and Sophia, my grandkids, peeked from behind Candace. Their faces were wide-eyed and quiet, just watching. I tried to speak, to beg, to ask why, but no sound came out. My throat was tight, full of tears. I couldn't cry. My mind raced, trying to understand this bad dream. Just moments before, I walked in smiling, ready to give him the gift. Now a cold fear spread through me, freezing me in place. This was happening in my own home, a place that should be safe and loving. This was a true story of resilience, but right then it felt like everything was ending. Mark pushed me with his words, backing me towards the open front door. "We don't need you here. This isn't your house anymore. It's ours," he roared, filled with a hate I had never seen in him. The jacket slipped from my shaking hands. It hit the floor with a soft sound. It lay there, a sad reminder of what was lost. Candace stepped forward. Her voice was too sweet. "We need your room, Ida Mae. For the new baby's room. You're just in the way." A baby room. They were kicking me out for a baby room. The sheer meanness of it made me feel dizzy. My hands clenched into fists. I wasn't going to hit them. I just wanted to hold on to the last bit of who I was. I looked at Liam, then Sophia again. Their small faces were blank. They showed no feeling, just like their parents. No sadness, no care, just empty stares. This wasn't just about money. This was a betrayal story happening right in front of me. A real-life story of family turning bad. I turned slowly. My legs felt heavy like big stones. Each step to the open door took forever. The cool night air outside felt better than the burning shame inside. I heard a loud bang as Mark slammed the door shut behind me. The sound echoed in the quiet street, in my ears, deep inside my soul. It was a hard final end to a part of my life. And then I heard it again. Their laughter. Loud and clear, full of joy. It came through the thin walls of the house I had given them. They laughed as I walked out into the cold, dark night. No home, no hope, just the awful truth of how cruel they were. My son, his wife, my grandkids. Laughing. I could barely breathe. Tears finally fell, hot and painful. This was not just a moment of pain. This was the start of a deep personal revenge plan. I made a silent promise to myself in the dark. If you think this is the end of my survival story, you are very wrong. This is only the beginning of how a grandmother takes revenge. A story that shows karma always comes back. The freezing night air was a shock after being thrown out of my own house. But the cold outside was nothing compared to the cold dread that filled me. I knew deep down that what just happened wasn't a sudden thing. It had been building for a long time, like a hidden sickness. All those small things I'd seen over the years, the whispers, the quick looks away, the constant talk about needing more space. It all clicked into place. I started to put the pieces together, and what I saw was a big, ugly picture of lies and cheating. It wasn't just Mark and Candace. Other people were involved in this. My sister Grace, who always seemed a little jealous of me, started visiting a lot more after I signed the house over to Mark. She'd bring food, offer to help clean, and then very quietly, she'd ask me about my money. She asked if I had any secret savings. I thought she was just being caring, like a good sister. But now I know better. She wasn't asking about how I was doing. She was digging for information, looking for ways to take advantage of me. She even brought a man named Mr. Thorne to my house, saying he was a money helper. He talked about safe ways to put my money and how I could earn a lot. He made me sign some papers, saying it was for my future safety. I trusted him. I trusted her. Then came the new look for the house. Candace really wanted it, saying the house needed to be modern. Mark agreed with her. They brought in noisy workers who tore down walls and put in new floors. They changed the whole way the house looked inside. I thought it was a good idea, making the house nicer for their family. But while they were working, they made me move my things into a smaller room, and then an even smaller one. My own personal space kept shrinking every week, just like I was becoming less important in their lives. They even managed to lose some of my old family photos and special things that belonged to my family for many years. I felt a pang of sadness, but I told myself it was just an accident. The stories about me started spreading in our town, little by little. I would hear women at the grocery store whispering about Mark and Candace's new cars, their fancy vacations. They talked about how lucky they were to have such a kind mother like me. It hurt to hear, but I thought they just didn't understand that I simply wanted to help my son. It never crossed my mind that these stories were being spread on purpose. They were making people think I was a burden, a drain on Mark and Candace. It was all a setup to make it easy for me to be kicked out. One day, I found a legal paper that was left carelessly on the kitchen table. It was about property taxes, but not just for my house. It listed other places, rental homes in different neighborhoods. I didn't know those addresses. Mark quickly grabbed the paper away from me. He mumbled something about future plans for investments. I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. Mark had never been interested in buying houses or properties before. This was Candace's big dream, pushed by something I couldn't quite understand at the time. The pieces slowly started to fit together. My house, my kindness, my trust, it was all being used. They weren't just taking my home. They were building an empire on my back, using everything I had. The truth hit me like a physical blow. I wasn't just ignored, I was planned out. Every nice thing they seemed to do, every helpful suggestion, every little worry they pretended to have. It was all a careful plan. I had been slowly stripped of my power, my money, and my pride. Mr. Thorne, the money helper. My sister Grace's sudden interest, Candace's carefully planned changes to the house. It was all a big trap, and I was stuck right in the middle of it. I looked at my face in the dark kitchen window. The soft-hearted grandma I used to be was gone. In her place was a strong, hard look. This wasn't about hurt anymore. This was about making things right. I was done staying quiet. The game had changed. They had messed with the wrong woman. You won't believe what happens next when I start fighting back. You need to keep watching to see the shocking turnarounds. The cold of the park bench was bad, but the cold truth in my heart was worse. After Mark slammed the door, a heavy dread settled over me. It wasn't just that he was mean. It was that this meanness had been planned. For a long time, I started to see it all clearly, like pulling back a dark curtain. The little whispers I heard, the way their eyes would avoid mine, all the talk about needing more space. It all made sense now. I started putting the small pieces together, tiny bits of lies making a big, ugly blanket of cheating. It wasn't just Mark and Candace. Other people were helping them. My sister Grace, who always seemed a little bit jealous of me, started coming to my house more after I gave Mark the deed to the house. She would bring food, offer to clean, and then very quietly, she would ask me about my money. She asked if I had any secret cash hidden away. I thought she was just being a good sister, showing she cared. But now I know she wasn't. She was digging for information. She was looking for ways to use me. She even brought a man named Mr. Thorne to my house. She said he was a money helper. He talked about safe ways to put my money and how I could earn a lot. He made me sign some papers, saying it was for my future safety. I trusted him. I trusted her. This was a dark family secret slowly coming to light. Then came the new look for the house. Candace really wanted it. She said the house needed to be modern and new. Mark agreed with her. They brought in loud workers who tore down walls and put in new floors. They changed everything about the inside of the house. I thought it was a good idea, making the house nicer for their family. But while they were doing all this work, they made me move my things into a smaller room and then an even smaller one. My own space kept getting tinier every week. It felt like I was shrinking in my own home, becoming less and less important to them. They even somehow lost some of my old family photos and special things that had been in my family for many years. I felt a pang of sadness, but I told myself it was just an accident, a messy house move. The stories about me started spreading in our town. I would hear women at the grocery store whispering. They talked about Mark and Candace's new cars and their fancy trips. They said how lucky Mark and Candace were to have such a kind mother like me. It hurt to hear this, but I thought they just didn't understand how much I wanted to help my son. It never crossed my mind that these stories were being told on purpose. They were making people think I was a burden, someone who took from Mark and Candace. It was all a setup. It was making it easy for them to kick me out. It was part of their big, cruel plan. One day, I found a legal paper left carelessly on the kitchen table. It was about property taxes. But it wasn't just for my house. It listed other places, other rental homes in different neighborhoods. I didn't know those addresses. Mark quickly grabbed the paper away from me. He mumbled something about future plans for buying more places. I felt a cold, tight feeling in my stomach. Mark had never cared about buying houses or property before. This was Candace's big dream. It was pushed by something I couldn't quite understand at the time. But now the pieces started to fit together. Slowly and painfully. My house, my kindness, my trust, it was all being used. They weren't just taking my home. They were building an empire on my back, using everything I had. The truth hit me hard like a punch to the gut. I wasn't just ignored. I was planned out. Every nice thing they seemed to do, every helpful idea, every little worry they pretended to have. It was all part of a careful, mean plan. I had been slowly stripped of my power, my money, and my pride. Mr. Thorne, the money helper. My sister Grace's sudden interest. Candace's carefully planned changes to the house. It was all a big trap. And I was stuck right in the middle of it. I looked at my face in the dark kitchen window. The soft, loving grandma I used to be was gone. In her place was a strong, hard look. This wasn't about hurt anymore. This was about making things right. I was done staying quiet. The game had changed. They had messed with the wrong woman. And now I was ready to fight back. This was the moment I decided I would not be silent anymore. The cold of the park bench bit into my body. It was hard and unforgiving. The rough ground under me was a cruel reminder of my new life. I had no home. I was Ida Mae Jones, a woman who always paid her bills, a woman who never asked for help, and now I was sleeping in a park. The shame burned hotter inside me than any anger. I pulled my thin blanket tight, trying to keep out the freezing night air. But nothing could stop the shaking that started deep inside my bones. Tears came then, hot and painful. They ran down my old face. These weren't just tears for my lost home. These weren't just tears for my son's cruel actions. They were tears for a life spent giving, for all my hard work that was not cared about, for a love that had been crushed into dust. I started to question everything. Was I truly dead weight? Had I failed somehow? Mark and Candace's mean words played over and over in my head. They were like a broken record, a never-ending torture. Dead weight. In the way. Just leave. Each word felt like a fresh cut, tearing at my spirit. I curled up small, a lost heap on that cold bench. My body ached all over. My old joints screamed from the hard ground. My health, which had always been strong, now felt weak and thin. It was worn down by all the sadness and pain. I thought of my late husband, Thomas. He would never have let this happen to me. His memory was a dull ache, a constant reminder of what true love and loyalty felt like. This was the lowest I had ever been in my life. I was a quiet, defeated woman, invisible to all the busy people around me in the city. Days turned into a boring pattern. I searched for food. I tried to find a safe corner to rest. I tried to avoid the sad, pitying looks from strangers. A few kind people helped me. A warm cup of coffee from a nice person who sold things on the street. A gentle nod from another person who also lived in the park. These small acts of kindness kept a tiny spark of hope alive inside me. But most of the time there was just the heavy feeling of being alone. No phone calls. No visits. My family, the people I had given my whole life to, had simply erased me from their lives. One day I was looking through my old worn handbag, and I found it. A small book with a leather cover. I had started writing in it years ago. Just simple notes, my thoughts, little moments I wanted to remember. I hadn't touched it in a very long time. My hand shook as I opened it to a random page. And there, in my own neat handwriting, was an entry from 2 years ago. It said, "Mark asked me to sign papers today for the house. He said it would make things easier for him if anything happened to me. It felt strange, but I trust my boy. I hope I'm doing the right thing." I gasped. The date. The words. A cold, clear understanding hit me hard. It wasn't just about giving him the house, was it? It was more. Much more than that. In that very moment, a tiny light flickered inside me. Not just a book, but a record. Not just thoughts but proof. The deep sadness that had almost swallowed me alive began to pull back. In its place, a quiet, growing strength began to build. I might be down now, but I was not out. Not yet. If you have ever had to build your life back up from nothing, if you have ever felt like your world just fell apart around you, stick with me. This is where my story truly starts to change. You won't believe what happens next. The small book entry was like a tiny key unlocking a huge, scary door. The more I thought about it, the more details came flooding back to me. It was all so clear now. The quick way Mark made me sign papers. His strange hurry. Mr. Thorne's smooth words making me feel safe. It wasn't just a simple paper for the house. It was more. Much, much more. At first I thought Mark, pushed by Candace, was the main person behind all this. But then a new, even more terrible truth started to show itself. It started with Layla, my granddaughter. She was Liam and Sophia's older sister from Mark's first wife. Layla was always a quiet girl. Always respectful. Mark and Candace often overlooked her, didn't pay her much attention. I remembered her asking me months ago why Candace was always asking about my bank accounts. I just brushed it off. I thought it was just a child's curiosity. But Layla's eyes had a knowing look. A sadness I didn't understand back then. It was a hint, a small piece of a puzzle I couldn't see yet. I hadn't seen Layla in months. Not since the day I was thrown out of my home. But one freezing cold morning, as I sat on my park bench, a small person came towards me. It was Layla. Her eyes were red from crying. Her face was pale. She carried a small worn backpack. She sat beside me quiet for a long time. Then she spoke. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Grandma Ida Mae," she began. "I couldn't stay there. Not after what I saw." Her words made a chill run down my spine. She told me everything. She told me about the loud fights, the late-night phone calls she overheard. She spoke about Candace, not Mark. How Candace, driven by a huge hunger for money and power, had planned every single step of this evil scheme. Candace had tricked Mark. She twisted his pride and his dreams of being rich against me. Layla told me Candace had found out about my small private savings. The little bit of money I had saved up, hidden away. Money I wanted to give to Mark's children one day. Candace saw how much I trusted people. She saw how easy it was to fool me. And she used it all against me. Layla even heard Candace on the phone talking to Grace, my own sister. They were talking about getting rid of the old woman and getting all the money. Grace. My sister. The pieces crashed together in my mind. Grace with her fake concern. Her bringing Mr. Thorne, the money helper, to me. He wasn't a helper. He was a snake. He was part of Candace's plan. He had tricked me into signing papers that gave him control of my money. He was slowly taking all my savings, leaving me with nothing but empty promises. Grace had been telling Candace everything. She was acting as Candace's spy, all while pretending to be my loving sister. The person I had felt sorry for, thinking she had problems of her own, was actually a poisonous snake working against me the whole time. Layla, brave and heartbroken, pulled out a small USB stick from her backpack. "I copied these," she said, her voice shaking. "Recordings. Emails. Documents. Candace's plans. Proof." My hands trembled as I took the tiny device. This wasn't just a simple book entry anymore. This was a treasure chest of secrets. A quiet anger, cold and sharp, settled deep in my heart. Not wild fury, not blind rage, but a chilling clearness. The victim, the sad old lady, was gone. Ida Mae, the survivor, was now getting ready for justice. And this time she wouldn't be alone. Layla, my quiet, overlooked granddaughter, was my first unexpected friend. My fight was about to begin, and it was going to hit them hard. The USB stick Layla gave me was like a map of their evil plan. It showed every bad thing Candace planned, every hateful whisper from Grace, and every trick Mr. Thorne used with his papers. My quiet strength, which used to be like a soft blanket protecting me, now became a sharp knife. I started small. I went to a place that gives free legal help. There I met Mr. Davis, a kind, smart lawyer. His eyes looked a little tired, but he believed in doing what was right. He listened to my whole story without judging me. His gaze was steady and understanding. He looked at all the papers and listened to the recordings. His face got hard with every new bad thing he saw. "Mrs. Jones," he said, his voice quiet but strong. They thought you were weak. And they made a huge mistake. Our first move was quiet, like a whisper before a big storm. Mr. Davis helped me start a lawsuit against Mr. Thorne. We said he stole my money and hurt an older person like me. The news reached Mark and Candace through their own lawyers. I could almost picture their shocked faces, their disbelief. They thought I would just disappear, fade away in the park. They never thought I would fight back. The first court meeting was a small win for us. Mr. Thorne, trapped by all the proof Layla had given us, looked pale and very uncomfortable. He tried to say it wasn't true. He tried to blame other people. But the truth, backed up by the recordings, was clear. The judge ordered that some of his money be stopped so he couldn't use it. It was just a small start, but it was enough to make them afraid. Next we went after Grace. Mr. Davis sent her a strong letter. It said we would take her to court if she didn't stop spreading lies about me and planning against me. Grace had always hidden her meanness behind a sweet smile. Now suddenly she was exposed. The people at her church, where she was seen as an important leader, started to whisper about her. Her good name, which she worked so hard to build, began to crack. She called me, screaming and threatening me. Her voice was wild with fear and anger. It was a sound I had never heard from her before. I just listened, a calm certainty settling over me. The power was shifting. The most satisfying part was watching what happened to Mark and Candace. Candace's new properties, the rental home she bought using my stolen money, started having problems with the law. The people renting those homes, feeling brave because of the fraud rumors, started asking questions about their rent. Their grand plan, which they used to show off how rich they were, started to fall apart. The money problems grew bigger and bigger. I could see it in Mark's tired face, in Candace's less perfect clothes and hair. They were no longer the golden couple in town. People started looking at them with suspicion. They were now known as the greedy children who kicked out their own mother. I even had a quiet talk with Pastor Evans from my old church. I didn't tell him everything, but I shared enough for him to understand how low Mark and Candace had gone. He listened, his kind eyes filled with sadness. Soon the community, who had once felt sorry for me, started to look at Mark and Candace with doubt. Their high standing in the town, which was so important to Candace, began to disappear. They were no longer the respected ones. They were the cruel ones who harmed their own family. The biggest blow came when the first of Mr. Thorne's bank accounts was finally unfrozen. A part of my stolen money was given back to me. Not all of it, but enough. Enough to get a small apartment. Enough to start building a new life. The money was a symbol, not just cash. It was proof that I was not dead weight. I was a strong force. I wasn't doing this just for revenge anymore. I was doing it for justice. For my pride. For every person who was told they weren't good enough, who was silenced. And then one day Mark called. His voice was not proud. It was not angry. It had something new in it, something I had never heard from him before. It was fear. Pure plain fear. The game was far from over. The final face-off didn't happen in a courtroom. It wasn't a big family meeting either. It happened in the quiet, plain waiting room of a hospital. Mark had called me. His voice was shaking. He said Candace had fallen very sick. Her heart was hurting because of too much stress. I didn't want to go at first, but Layla told me I should. It's not for them, Grandma, she said. It's for you. To finish what you started. I walked into that waiting room. I felt calm and strong inside. Mark sat slumped in a plastic chair. His face was pale. His eyes looked empty. Grace was there too, huddled in a corner. She tried not to look at me. Mr. Thorne was nowhere. He was dealing with his own big problems with the law. When Mark saw me, he jumped. He looked like he thought I would scream at him. I just sat down a few chairs away. My hands were calm in my lap. A doctor came out. He spoke softly about Candace. He said she was very sick but would live. Mark looked completely defeated. That's when I spoke. My voice was calm and clear. It cut through the quiet room. Mark, I began. I didn't raise my voice. Do you remember the jacket I bought you that day? The gift. He looked up. His eyes were wide. He was surprised. It was meant to remind you, I went on. About time. How fast it goes. And how what you do, good or bad, comes back to you later. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse him. I just said what happened. Not for them but for me. For the world to know the truth. I talked about the house. The money they stole. The bad way they treated me. I talked about Grace's part, her jealous heart. I talked about Candace's huge want for money. How she tricked Mark. How she made him believe I was worthless. How she used my trust to build her own kingdom that was now falling apart. Mark listened. His head was down. Tears quietly ran down his face. Grace squirmed. She wanted to disappear from the room. I pulled out a folded paper from my purse. It wasn't a court paper this time. It was a copy of my will. The real one I made many years ago, before all this trouble. It clearly said that my house and everything I owned would be split equally among all my grandchildren when I passed away. Layla was named as the one who would take care of it. Not just Mark. Not just Liam and Sophia. All of them. And there was a rule in it. It said that if any family member acted against my wishes or hurt me, their share would be given to help other people. You found my name on something you never should have touched, Mark, I said. My voice was steady. That will. Candace found it, didn't she? That's what started all this. She didn't want the house to be divided. She wanted it all. For herself. For her kids. His head shot up. His face showed pure shock and horror. The truth was finally out. It was Candace's greed to get all my money that made her plan to kick me out. She made Mark believe I was useless. She wanted to cut out Layla and anyone else from getting their rightful share. Mark sobbed. It was a broken sound. Mama, he whispered. I didn't know. Not all of it. I just looked at him. There was no forgiveness in my eyes. But there was no hate either. Just a quiet understanding of how easily a son could be fooled by a cruel wife. I stood up. My legs, which once trembled, now felt strong. My back, which was once bent, was straight. I had walked into that hospital feeling like a ghost. I was walking out a new woman. I looked at Grace, then at Mark. I had taken back my dignity. I had shown everyone their true colors. I was free. I turned and walked away. I left my words echoing in the room. I left their ruined lives behind me. I was alone if I had to be, but I was powerful. Years have passed since that day in the hospital. The air in my small garden now smells like fresh pine and rich dirt. It's a peaceful smell. This is very different from the park bench where I once felt so sad and lost. I built my life again little by little. Not with anger but with a quiet strength. This strength grew inside me from all the hard times. The fights in court took a long time and were very tiring. But in the end, most of the money they stole from me was given back. Mr. Thorne lost his job as a lawyer, and he faced serious problems with the law. Grace, my sister, lost her good standing in our town. Everyone saw how fake she was. She became a lonely person, and people who once looked up to her now stayed away. Mark and Candace's lives, which once looked so perfect and grand, completely fell apart. The problems with money, the shame they felt in front of everyone, Candace's ongoing health issues. All of these things broke them. Their marriage ended. Mark, who was now humble and broken, finally reached out to Layla, my granddaughter. He asked for her forgiveness. Layla, with her kind heart, showed him a way to heal. It was a slow and hard path. He works a simple job now. He is trying to become a better father to his children. He is trying to understand what real family means. Candace, lost in her own failures, disappeared from the public eye. She became a warning story about being too greedy. Liam and Sophia, my grandkids, were kept safe from much of the ugly truth by Layla and Mark. They are growing up now, learning important lessons their parents never taught them. My life now is calm and full of peace. I found a small house in a quiet neighborhood. It's filled with books. The smell of fresh bread often fills the air. And most importantly, it's filled with the happy sounds of Layla's children, my great-grandchildren, who visit me often. Layla herself became a successful helper for older people who have been hurt. She turned her own pain into a strong purpose. We share a special bond, a quiet understanding of what it means to be a survivor. We know how to face hard things and come out stronger. Being a survivor isn't just about living through something very hard. It's about choosing to value yourself every single day. It's about finding your voice when everyone expects you to be quiet. It's about learning that sometimes the very people who are supposed to lift you up are the ones trying to pull you down. But it's also about knowing that even when you are at your lowest point, you can rise up. You can become stronger and wiser. I learned that real power is not about having a lot of money or being famous. It's about being honest. It's about being quietly strong. It's about truly believing in your own worth. I am Ida Mae Jones. I am not dead weight. I am like a tree with deep roots, standing tall and strong through every storm. My story is not special or just mine. So many of us, especially older Black women, carry big burdens. We have untold stories of giving everything, of great love, and of quiet battles that we won. We are often not seen or we are not thought to be important. But we are strong. We are survivors. If you are a survivor, if you have had to fight for your peace, if you have ever had to take back your dignity from someone who tried to steal it from you, then subscribe now. Your story matters too. Let's share our strength. Let's make sure no one else is ever put down or called dead weight. Keep watching, keep fighting, keep living your truth.